Hello, we are Brandon Chen, Ruby Tang, and Emily Liu, and we are going to talk about our interpretations of the book The Color Purple by Alice Walker through the lenses of the feminist and Marxist schools of criticism. The book we are analyzing is the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel The Color Purple by Alice Walker. It takes place in rural Georgia and focuses on the lives of various African American women in the South in the early 20th century, drawing upon issues such as their low positions in society and depicting accurate portrayals of the individual hardships each of the female characters must endure, particularly those of the main character, Celie. Some important topics that are covered in the novel are men's abuse of power, the negative effect of traditional gender roles, toxic masculinity, interactions between women, and the position of women in other societies, such as those of the fictional African tribal society of Olinka.
The feminist school of criticism analyzes instances in our society and literature in which the effects of the patriarchal system are visible. It is informed by the ideology and principles of feminism to critique and describe the ways in which male domination manifests itself within literature by examining different social, political, and psychological aspects of society. The depiction of female characters, their relationships with each other, and their relationships with men is also of high importance in terms of analyzing what message the text appears to be making.
In numerous localities across the globe, women have to fight to gain equal rights and treatment as men. The Color Purple by Alice Walker focuses on two of these locations, the United States and a country in Africa in which the Olinka, a fictitious tribe, live. The perception of women in Olinkan society restricts the ability of women to receive basic commodities that men are easily able to obtain. In Nettie's letter to Celie detailing her experience as a missionary in Africa, Nettie writes that in an Olinkan society, quote, the Olinka do not believe girls should be educated. When I asked a mother why she thought this, she said, a girl is nothing to herself. Only to her husband can she become something. What can she become? I asked. Why, she said, the mother of his children. End quote. While in the United States women are also relegated to lower level positions in society, this problem becomes exacerbated in a traditional African culture like that of the Olinka. Because women are denied access to education and have a value measured by the ability to be a good wife, Olinkan women are not put on the same playing field as men, who have more opportunities to succeed. Walker includes this drastically different depiction of a contemporary society in order to create this stark contrast between relatively more progressive societies, like the one in the US, and more conservative societies that cling onto traditional roots and limit women's status in society. Additionally, the idea in a Lincoln society that women are only worth something if they are the mother of one's children perpetuates toxic gender roles, with the implication that women are supposed to be caretakers of the children, being expected to succeed in this aspect, while the men are the ones that seek out a career because they're perceived as more logical and intelligent and less likely to let emotions dictate their actions. All of these perceptions are incredibly harmful to the place of women in society, and Walker's decision to include a portrayal of a society like that of the Olinkans demonstrates that these problems aren't specific to a certain region of the world. This way of thinking persists in a wide variety of different societies all throughout the main world.
We see many instances in The Color Purple in which women are valued based on how well they can fulfill the role of a perfect wife. First, in the beginning of the novel, Mr. comes to ask for Nettie's hand in marriage, but Nettie's stepfather Alfonso refuses and tries to sell Celie to him as a suitable wife instead. Their interaction is similar to selling livestock in a business transaction. Alfonso promotes Celie's abilities to run a household, and Mr. inspects her body to see if it's suitable for his needs. Quote, but I can let you have Celie. She the oldest anyway. She ought to marry first. She ain't fresh though, but I expect you know that. She's spoiled, twice. But you don't need a fresh woman no how. I got a fresh one in there myself, and she's sick all the time. The children get on her nerves. She not much of a cook. End quote. While Alfonso offers Celie as a second option for a wife, he warns Mr. that she ain't fresh though, but I expect you know that. This is an example of the degrading double standards that women are affected by. Alfonso tells Mr. that Celie is somehow less valuable than Nettie because she isn't a virgin and has had 2 children in the past, calling her spoiled. Never mind the fact that Albert also has several children by multiple women, because the standard that you're somehow less valuable for not being a virgin is only applicable if you're a woman. Additionally, Alfonso justifies the lack of the need for a fresh woman because he's got a fresh woman and the children get on her nerves she not much of a cook. This reinforces the traditional gender role that women must be the perfect housewife and be great caretakers of children, and cook for the family. Otherwise, her worth is diminished greatly. And let us consider the fact that throughout all of this, while Alfonso makes his pitch and Mr. listens, Celie has no say in what happens. Her fate is decided by her father and a stranger, even though marriage will affect her life greatly and separate her from her sister. Walker's depiction of this encounter between the two men is eye-opening and emphasizes how a common scenario in the 1900s is so telling of the perception of women and their perceived roles in society.
Another important aspect of the novel is Harpo's relationship with Sophia. Quote, Harpo want to know what to do to make Sophia mind. He sit out on the porch with Mister. He say, I tell her one thing, she do another. Never do what I say. Always back talk. You ever hit her? Mister asked. Nah, sah, he say low, embarrassed. Well, how you expect to make her mind? Wives is like children. You have to let 'em know who got the upper hand. Nothing can do that better than a good sound beating. End quote. Harpo's relationship with Sophia is important because it breaks the traditional gender role of a husband and wife in any marriage. While men are expected to do hard labor and be tough and strong, Sophia is the one that takes up this role instead. Harpo enjoys more feminine chores like cooking and cleaning and isn't as tough as Sophia. Sophia is everything that a woman is told not to be, and is thus unique from the other female characters in the book like Celia and Mary Agnes, who do what they're told, cook and clean for their families, and don't backtalk like Sophia does. One of the most unsettling things about this passage is that as soon as Harpo mentions to his father, Mister, that he's having trouble making Sophia mine, the first suggestion that comes to mind is to beat some sense into her. According to Mister, wives is like children, and you have to let 'em know who got the upper hand. Mister seems to perceive marriage as a relationship in which one party is dominant over the other, rather than an equal partnership in life. Women can do all these chores and contribute to the family, but at the end of the day, they're expected to be subordinate to men. Another unsettling aspect of this is that Celie tells Harpo to beat Sophia because she's jealous of Sophia's ability to defend herself while she herself is constantly beat by Mister. This is detrimental to both of the women's well-being as a whole because, as Walker continually argues throughout the book, women must stick together and help each other stand up to oppressive treatment by men. When Celie doesn't do this for Sophia, Celie is overcome with guilt and Sophia is shaken by her husband's willingness to beat her.
The Marxist school of criticism was formulated by the school's namesake Karl Marx during the mid-1800s. This school of criticism is very straightforward. Everything is valued by its contribution to society, either person or object, regardless of their race, gender, or religion. It views literature as a reflection of the social institutions that they originate from, and as something with a specific ideological function. To put it simply, Marxist literary criticism analyzes the social content present within literature and determines its political tendency, which basically refers to whether it's progressive or not. Let us interpret The Color Purple through a Marxist lens. In contrast to the feminist interpretation, according to the Marxist interpretation, women and men were all seen as equal, regardless of their current situation, and that they had no problem working in their position as long as they were useful to their society. Throughout the majority of the book, Celie lives under the roof of Albert's household, serving him and his family as what was expected of a wife in this time period. She prepares all the family's meals, does everyone's laundry, and even helps Albert shave. As a feminist, this lifestyle would be critiqued, but a Marxist would very much approve of this. Albert is the main source of income for the household, as he works outside of the house for money. Because he is working, he is benefiting the economy in some sort of way. This would make a Marxist happy because Marxists value something by its contribution to society. Celie works as some sort of servant towards Albert, and in doing so, Marxists say that she is also benefiting the economy. Marxists would tie this back to the book by saying working women in the household are a good thing to have in modern society. Celia is shown as one of these women, exemplifying how she is more or less of a servant to Albert, the working man of the household. In short, The Color Purple says that the household wives contribute to society in a good way because they serve their working husbands who help with the economy. A Marxist reader would disapprove of Celie's pants business later in the book because they would think that a Walker is suggesting capitalism is a form of escape. When Celie finally stands up to Albert, saying that her life is a living hell, she leaves with Shug Avery to start a new life without men. As she settles in with Shug, away from her old home, she finds joy in sewing pants for her friends. Taking advantage of this hobby, Celie decides to start her own business, selling her own pants, and makes a solid living off this business venture. In contrast to her old life back at Albert's home, She seems much happier living with Shug and sewing pants for a living. A Marxist would interpret this by saying Alice Walker is suggesting that capitalism is good because it provides an escape for women who are struggling with their own lives. Seeley's new business is a capitalistic venture, which is contradictory to the Marxist school of criticism, in which socialism is the superior economic structure. There is little evidence that suggests she is providing jobs for other people, which is also counterproductive to the Marxist ideology that people should work for the economy's benefit. Seeley is a changed woman after she started her business, and her self-esteem has improved by a great deal. Seeley is now happy because she started a business for herself. A Marxist reader would very much disapprove because the book views capitalism as a good economic structure.
Thanks for watching our video.